So today what I wanted to talk about is how does a Diddy happen? And so just a little background about myself. I've worked in the entertainment business for the last 30 plus years, and I've worked for producers, and I've worked a little bit as an actress as well. So I've been around the entertainment business for the last 30 plus years. And what's on our minds right now and what's kind of reminding me of this are these Epstein files. But that's what kind of brought this up for me because before all this focus on the Epstein files was our focus on this Diddy trial and all the crazy stuff that we heard about this Diddy trial. And before Diddy, there was Bill Cosby. And before Bill Cosby, there was Harvey Weinstein, or vice versa. And before Harvey Weinstein, there was Woody Allen. The list goes on and on and on. These rumblings of this behavior in the entertainment business, this behavior, this culture of abuse. And I wanted to talk about that today. And as I said, my name is Beverly. This is a channel dedicated to health, wellness, and fitness. And I do some stuff on my experience working in the entertainment business. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. My observations just about the business in general and how a Diddy happens. And so if you saw any of that trial or any of the stuff that came up, or even I remember there was that old footage of him on that MTV show where he was forming a band and he's going off in the office. He's behaving like a child, like a spoiled child. And you wonder, how does that happen? That anybody would tolerate that? And it really is the entertainment business, in my experience and observation, that doesn't punish bad behavior. In fact, bad behavior is often rewarded so long as you have something that they want, so long as you're delivering something that they want, which generally would just equate to you're making money for a studio, you're making money in the music business. So long as that's happening, your behavior is tolerated. And I've worked for producers that have been terrible people in the way that they treated those of us in the office. And what comes to mind is a particular producer who would literally fire assistants every week. It was just a revolving door of assistants. He was very abusive, verbally abusive, would call them brain dead and that they were stupid and that sort of thing. And if you could make it on his desk, if you could stay on his desk, it was considered this great badge of honor because you could withstand that abuse. And a lot of people didn't make it. They either quit or most of the time he fired them. And everybody in the office saw it. Everybody in the office knew that this was happening. And actually, there was another producer also who actually said, based on the way they treated their assistants, well, I went through it. Somebody treated me this way, like it's this rite of passage and it's justified. And so for somebody like a Diddy or a Cosby or a Weinstein, where again, you're making money for whatever the organization is. If you're Diddy, you're a producer and you're pumping out these artists that are making a lot of money, people will look the other way because even in this trial, you heard about basically that whole operation, all the people that he had hired that worked around him that helped facilitate this horrible, abhorrent behavior. And it's something that I have seen. I've never been in his presence. I don't know him, but I just mean I've seen horrible behavior where people are moving around and helping to facilitate that. And because you work in the office, and in my case, I'm not talking about there were sex parties and all those kinds of things. That is outside of my realm of experience, thankfully. But I'm referring to how does one get away with that? And it really is a business. You're not penalized for it. You really, really are not. People just move around you in that way, like, oh, yeah, this guy's an asshole, right? You know that. But it's not, this guy's an asshole, we're not going to hire him. It's really, really strange. But that is how that happens. It's this culture that accepts it so long as the business feels that you're offering something. And again, it circles around making money. And who else comes to mind is like a business manager. This person was a business manager of really big movie stars. You would know their names. And terrible person. Just would cuss people out on the phone, cuss people out that came in their office, just like this stick of dynamite that was just waiting for like the smallest match and they would explode. They would explode. It was not something that happened every once in a while, it was daily. And I say that having witnessed it firsthand, and people going to their office and coming back just completely like, what was that? But that person continued to work in the business. That person continued to represent these big movie stars. And I don't believe that people don't know, like these movie stars, I don't believe that they don't know the behavior of these people. I don't. I think that that person, in this case, I'm talking about a business manager, that person serves a purpose. They're taking care of things. Maybe they're getting certain deals and things done for that movie star. And so they're happy to have that person do it. And then their hands stay clean about it. But I do believe that they know what's happening. There's no way that you wouldn't be able to know that you wouldn't be able to know it. And so with the Diddy trial, and even just all the horrible things that Cassie was subjected to, when you look at that, is crazy, crazy, crazy. And so it's taking advantage of people who want to work in this business and knowing that it's a small business and people feeling like they can't say no, they can't walk away from it if they really want to work in the business. And, to a certain degree, I think some of that is true. Everybody in the business is not like that. I work for some nice people. I've worked with some nice people. I work with a decent person right now. I do. Those people exist, and the business knows that they exist, and the business just tolerates them. And they tolerate them, I think, until they don't need to anymore. If you stop making money, you won't be tolerated anymore. But if you are, you can be the biggest monster and it will be tolerated. No one will say anything to you about it. You will continue to have people work for you, work around you, help facilitate your bad behavior. You'll continue to have it happen. And I've seen it again and again and again. And I remember, this producer that I was talking about, that whole office, it was so toxic. The air was just so toxic. When somebody comes in, if you've ever grown up in a household that has that toxic air, it was like that. And people didn't last long. I worked there for a really long time, but I didn't work directly for this producer. But I remember when I would have to deal with them, I did some accounting work, and I remember when I got the call on my phone that, oh, this person wants to see you, I would sort of seize up a bit. And then what I would do, this is total abusive behavior, right? And again, I didn't get yelled at or anything like that. That's not what my experience was. But I knew who I was dealing with. And so whenever it was that I had to go down to this person's office, I literally went through in my head all of the answers to all of the things that I was thinking that they would be asking me, so that I wouldn't be standing there and not have an answer to whatever it was that they were asking. If it was, the checks that were written and what is this for and what is this for and what, and then if I had the first answer, if there was a follow-up question that I had crazy. Crazy. And again, not even the worst of it, not even like getting yelled at, but witnessing that. And an office that witnessed that, and nobody did anything about it. Nobody, because everybody was afraid. Everybody was afraid to lose their job. Everybody was afraid to not be able to work in the entertainment business. And really, it's this environment that facilitates the behavior of a bully, of a big bully. And all of those around are just trying not to be in the way or trying not to be noticed. And so if you look at somebody like Diddy, like Weinstein, like Cosby, you look at those people and the power that they have, nobody's going to tell them no. Nobody's going to tell them no. And somebody like Weinstein, all the women that came out, most of them just held on to that and just tried to move on, which is like a bigger commentary on our society, because the amount of women that are assaulted and the amount of women that actually report that, there is a big divide, right? Because you see what happens in the Diddy trial. Cassie goes up there on the stand and she talks about all these things that happen and all of the abuse and things that she was subjected to. And what happened to him? Very little, very little. And so if you're not in the entertainment business, it feels hard to understand how any of these people even exist, how any of these people even continue to work. How does anybody employ them? It all comes down to money and whether or not they are making money for the business. And as long as they're making money for the business, there will be people to facilitate that behavior. And it will largely go unchecked. And so if you have any questions about it, please leave them in the comments below. If you work in the entertainment business, if you've had similar experience, please leave them below in the comments. I'd love to read about it. And I thank you so much. If this interests you, or health, wellness, fitness interests you, please like and subscribe. And until next time, take it easy.